should be
Yep.
a button. So.
Looks like we're up
Okay.
and running here. Okay.
Good.
Okay.
Now, where are you, Ken? What town are you in? Where are you in?
I'm in Berkeley. Claire and I are still trying to negotiate how we move in together. And, but, you know, it's, yeah. So anyway, I'm in Berkeley. And
is she staying there? Is she in Fairfax or?
She's in Fairfax. And, you know, it's a complicated situation for us. She says that she can't live she says she can't live in Berkeley because it's just too crowded, too congested, and she needs to be near nature. And, you know, my moving to, and I don't particularly want to live in Marin, although, you know, I could. But, you know, so we're thinking about possibly finding somewhere to rent in Marin, although that's, you know, the cost of that is kind of daunting. And especially right now, because as we're combining our income, I'm experiencing, you know, like, well, Claire basically doesn't have any income right now. Maybe about $1,000 a month. And she's working to, you know, she's making a website to build up her therapy practice. But you know, she quit the job at the insurance company, and she, which I think was good for her. She hated it. But anyway, but you know, that's another thing, is this fear that I'm working with. And a lot of it seems to be connected. I'm working with Abby. It's connected with a bunch of childhood issues interwoven with me. You know, for me, I can just see it's interwoven with a bunch of childhood issues. You know, this fear, it could be, I hope it goes back past lifetimes and I'm resolving it, but you know, it could be totally, I had a really lonely, bleak, fearful childhood. And it could just be I'm working with that. But a lot of it.
Well, yeah, but the karma of that comes from the past. So it's always interrelated, because those things don't pop up out of nowhere. It's a particular karmas that show up at certain times, you know. Mm-hmm. And in a sense, sometimes when we're practitioners, those karmas then show up in certain lifetimes so that we can really resolve them, which is what you're working on. So it's an outpicturing in this life, which is, and in a sense, it's like the wounding happens in this life, but there's energies before that brought these things about and everything. So, you know. Yeah. It's interpenetrating. Yeah. So were your parents just off busy in their own thing? Were they kind of cold or?
Oh, okay. Basically, as long as I can remember, my parents were antagonistic towards each other. They hated each other.
Oh, bummer.
Or my mother hated my father. And my father was very frightening. He only hit me like once or twice. But you know, when I was in second grade, my mother sat us kids down, and she told me that she thought our father was mentally unstable, and if we did anything that would set him off, he might go crazy, he might go over the edge and kill us all and then kill himself. And
oh my God.
And so,
oh my God, that's a huge for a little kid to hear.
Yeah, I you know, it's like I've been talked with my sister about it, like, why in God's name would you say that to a bunch of little kids? You know, why anyway?
How many kids were there, Ken?
Three of us. Yeah, I'm the middle child. And anyway, I was also, my, uh, from the time I was maybe about 4.5 until maybe 10 or 11, we had this housekeeper that really disliked me and always criticized me. And my father was also, he was going through hard times too. Being with the whole situation at home was hard for everybody, but he was angry, and he would make me work with him out on the 12 acres that we had. And, it was just like everything I did was wrong. I honestly don't remember anyone telling me as a child, that's a really good job or good job. I've been talking about all of this stuff with Abby. And my mother was a source of warmth and comfort, but I've had more than one therapist tell me that from what I described, she was probably probably narcissistic, and she was very she tended to be very controlling. And I think maybe that thing about telling us about my dad, she was always trying to get us, like, kind of like it's us against them. Actually, us, my mom and the kids against my dad and this housekeeper who was always highly critical of me. My father was always highly critical of me. My mom was narcissistic. And I was just kind of spending my childhood, spending a lot of it just creeping around, trying not to be noticed and scared to be noticed.
Trying not to get hurt. Right.
And
being in fear. Yeah.
And so a lot of that is coming out in my relationship with Claire. And, we're working on that. I see Claire really making an effort to, to come back and reset. But, it's like, and like she will have an argument and then she'll afterwards come back and say, I love you. Or even if she says, like, I think I need to go home now, I need some time to be alone and reset. The last time she did that, she said, she just made it a point to say, I love you. I just need some time alone, which I really appreciate. I notice, but there are also, we're both imperfect human beings. She has her imperfections. And I notice that one of the things I notice is, and this again ties into my practice, I could frame it negatively or positively. I could say it's hard for me to trust people, or I think it might be more accurate to say I have a strong tendency to distrust people. It's not that I dislike people, and it's not that I don't want to help people. That helping people is one of the things that gives me great joy in my life. And
yeah,
but it's very difficult for me to say, I'm going to trust that you are not going to hurt me, and I don't have to always be vigilant and kind of making sure that you feel okay with people.
Right. Yeah, that's a big, huge thing especially when your trust has been broken as a child. The trust is such a huge, but you're conscious of it and you're working on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm what else was I going to say? Anyway, and again, one more facet of this is that obsessive compulsive order seems to run in my family. My mother had it, my son had it. He got, and I don't think I have it, but I do notice a tendency to obsess and worry about it. So, like, I'll notice, especially when Claire and I are apart, and this is one of the difficult things about living apart for me, is that when I'm by myself, it seems like my mind just latches on to every single thing that Claire did that seemed, you know, abrasive or hurtful or inconsiderate or problematic to me. And I just noticed that those memories just seem to stick like burrs in my mind. And my mind tends to go towards those. And I'm working with just, no, I'm not going to go there. You know, as soon as I become aware this is happening, I'm cutting it. But it's
and focusing on something positive that happened between you, or some positive feelings.
I'm bringing that in. That's very good. Thank you. And I've been trying to do that, but hearing you say it is really, it's so good to reinforce it, because it was just this kind of small notion in the back of my head. Maybe I can do that, but now that you've actually,
no, I think you can. You could, when you cut it, then you could try to remember some kind, tender moment between the two of you. You know, your underlying kind of love and agreements with each other, and do that. And then in the practice, Kent, you should really bring all this to the yidams, to each one of them, you know, because they're all different beings, and explain to them, and then ask them for the Amrita to be exactly what you need to heal these wounds, to wash the fear away and any causes of fear, and to help your nervous system relax, help help your system to understand that you are safe now. You know, you weren't safe as a kid, you had no power, but now you are safe, you're taking care of yourself safely, you know, to the best that we all can. And also you can pray, you know, especially Shadrupa and Tara, to help keep you safe in the bigger picture. But really bring this in, and imagine that Amrita from each of them as exactly what's needed in your body, mind, to exactly soothe and heal and release the past, and, you know, all of this kind of thing, so that it'll come into you in this form that's like exactly what you need, you know, to heal and liberate and all of that.
That sounds really good. Yeah. So,
they can really help, and your practice can really help with this, you know. And you can pray about the fear and anxiety too, to really, you know, liberate that, and to really, you know, help you to be with it, help it to liberate, you know. And I'm sure Abhi's working with you as just when you're present with it, when you notice it, just, you know, bringing awareness to meet it.
Right. Yeah. A lot of the work I do with Abhi is just having the support of another presence there, and going into just the physical experience of it's, for me, it's I mean, there are emotions and thoughts, but so much of it just feels so very physically grounded, so physically rooted for me. And the fear is experienced very, very physically, and I could, you know, but
I think that's because you've worked it for a long time, Ken, because the physical is the last to resolve itself. And I think that's really good that you're really in touch with the physicalness of it. And I do think it's part of the fact that you've worked on this a lot, so that now you're down to the hardcore, and the physical is the last to shift. Just remember that. And it's the hardest because it's physical, it's more dense. And, you know, again, the Amrita can come in just exactly into that physical, soothing, healing, liberating, whatever feels it needs, you know, imagine that happening. But yeah, I think that's good. That's really, really sounds good that you're really in touch with it physically and really it's very present like that.
Yeah, thank you. Good. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, and breathing into that physical too, you know, breathe into it, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, yeah, doing that. Yeah. So, um, yeah. I guess at this point, is there anything, I was just wondering, is there anything that you want to make sure that we cover together? I mean, I could talk about what's going on with me.
Yeah, what we can go more into the breath, just to talk about that some. And oh yeah, and then I wanted to ask you, you'd gone down on your anxiety meds almost to nothing or maybe all the way off, and then you decide to come back up. How's that going?
Okay, so it's going kind of,
Did it help to go back up a little bit on them?
well, I'm still in the process. It tends to be, like usually they say um, give it like 4 to 6 weeks, to see if this level is effective. I'm working with as I said in that email, a nurse practitioner at let's see here, at UCSF, and a psychiatric nurse practitioner. And so I'm up to, I increased it. I increased it first. Well, I increased it a little bit and didn't seem to be doing much. And then I increased it some more, and it seemed to lessen the fear. It didn't seem to be quite so intense, but it was still more than I really felt like I can deal with in my daily life and rest in. Again, it's like trying to strike a balance here between, I don't want to numb out. I want to be engaging, this stuff and bringing it to practice, but it's like bringing it to a level that's manageable. And I think even before,
Right.
when I was at complete, when I was still, when I was at the highest dose that I was on, I was still accessing this material and working with it, and I made a lot of progress. So I think, but I anyway. So there's that kind of reservation about going up, but I think it's okay.
And also, some of it might be very, very physical. It might be just part of your chemical hardwiring balance in your body, that some of it is, you know what I mean? It's very physical, and that you just need to stay on a certain amount to work with that.
I think that's probably, that may be true because, I know, yeah, and so, it could be this lifetime. That's what I need for my practice, and I was fortunate enough to be born in a place where that's a resource that's available.
Yeah.
And Abhi kind of has that point of view, that this is a.
Yeah, it makes sense. It really makes sense given what you're saying, that would be the case. And do you get any side effects? Or
There are some, at the highest dose, there are some sexual side effects, which basically they're not horrible. I'm able to respond sexually. I'm able to make love. It just makes it very, very, able to get an erection, if, to go into detail, but it's very, very, very hard to reach an orgasm. On the other hand, it's like, there's all of that other, and, orgasms are great, but there's all of that other benefit, all of that other, the warmth, the connection, the heart connection,
Right.
that comes with that. And that
Right.
actually, I notice when that can come even more to the fore, when that's the situation. So it's so we'll see. I'm not at the highest dose yet. I've been the Diane, who's the nurse practitioner, suggested, okay, well, we're up to, we've been doing like 3/4 of a pill. I could tell you the milligrams and the dosage if you want exactly, but we've been doing 3/4 of
No,
a
that's a,
pill, yeah, for 4 weeks, and it sounds like it's doing something, but it's not enough. So let's, let's go up to a full pill. Before I was at a pill and a half, okay, and so I'm up right now to about 2/3 of what I was doing before. Just started that yesterday, and we'll see what that does. I'm not sure what the side effects will
yeah.
be. Um,
Yeah.
at the lower doses, those side effects went away. But we'll see what it does at this dose. And then she suggested every 2 weeks, if you're not feeling better, let's up it until you get to the highest dose you were on, because it sounds like, this is pretty hellish,
Yeah, and there's definitely something physical. All of this demonstrates that there's a really pretty hardwired physical component. And so it's just the way it is. Luckily, the side effects are not horrendous,
right,
and you can deal with them. So that's really positive.
yeah,
Thank goodness. Yeah.
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 And
And then hopefully the practice will really be able to help too. But I think you're just going to probably just find that you have to stay, once you get the dose, whatever it is, you're just going to have to stay there. And that's just how it is.
that may be the case.
And
Yeah.
it could change at some point, but I think, you can, once you get it worked on and to where the best you can get it, you should just leave it don't even think about it for a couple years and a few years, and just see how, what I mean, and see what happens. And
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just the way it is. We all have different hardwirings and chemicals and all that thing. Yeah.
It is something that, yeah. And the other thing is, it's like, there is so much upheaval in my life right now. Not only the upheaval that everybody else is experiencing, like the political situation, the environmental situation, the fires and COVID. There's all of that, staying alone for so much of the time. But there's also, I'm just retired. I'm recently married, there's dealing with, Claire and I are still working out, a lot of the basic connection things between us. That we're at the place, and especially bringing this whole new factor in, she said, and I understand, like, I didn't understand, I know you told me that you were on anxiety meds and that, you felt that you needed them when we started, but it's, I didn't really, the word she is that, I didn't really sign up for this, to be dealing, to be with somebody who's feeling this degree of fear. And also the fear is affecting the way I interact with Claire. I'm bringing, she's much more particular about the way she keeps house than I am. She's much more out there about, the things that, like, she's like, I tend to be like really, really careful in the way that I talk. And I think, as I'm doing more work, I'm thinking maybe more than might be good for me. It's like I had this idea of Buddhist right speech and always trying to be gentle. And, Claire was brought up, in a family with 8 siblings. And, I think they just kind of got used to, like, saying stuff, like open, like, oh, like she was here this weekend and she said like, oh, this room always seems to be stinky for some reason. And it's like, I like, it's like, I would never say that to somebody, you know? Um, um, and I think, and I don't think she, for her, it's just an observation, but I notice I can tend to process it as a criticism. And
Yeah.
And also,
I think you have to try to be really objective about that and just
yeah,
take it as a male, female. I mean, usually a lot of times guys who live alone don't have the same standards, as the girls. And
very different.
it's always one of those typical issues, So I wouldn't take it personally. And
Right.
I think if you try to be happy that at least she feels comfortable to say it, and you guys can try to find, when you create a house together, do it in a way that works for both of you. And is she attached, staying in Marin? I mean, have you guys thought about moving, or is it too much change in the middle of all this change to think about?
That's another issue. On the one hand, I think when we're together, it's helpful because even if we hit bumps, for me, the the sense of we're here together, we're connected, we're hitting a bump right now, but you're here and we can reset. That's very helpful. That can be helpful for me. And then, like I said, when we're apart, there's that tendency to really worry, and so and I think it's on the other hand, when we're together, we do bump. We're going to be bumping heads more, just because of the proximity. And again, Claire is my sense is, and I can't, again, it's like I can't speak for another person, but my sense of what Claire is Claire, like my verbal environment is a place where I seem to have kind of made a relative refuge. Like I want people to speak kindly and gently and not be critical at all, and I'm going to try to do that. And that's the environment I want. That's the environment I feel safe in.
Yes.
And
yeah.
Claire,
right. Of course, that's you didn't have and you need now. Yeah.
Yeah. Claire seems to invest. Well, I don't know if see, the thing is, I'm looking at how much do I need that and how much can I flex to make room for Claire, who's just much more forward.
Right.
But again, she's
right.
making an effort to be more gentle too. We've talked about this, and that's another good thing we can talk about.
It does have to come to a middle ground. Yeah.
But Claire is so particular. Like I think the sense of physical order in her environment and being connected with nature, it just seems so important to her. Like
right.
It'll be like like I was refilling the ice cube trays and I'm about to put them back, and she said, one of those is at a different level from the others. We want them to be all the same. And it's like, really? But I think, and so I don't experience myself as a particularly messy person. It hasn't really been an issue with relationships in the past, but I think Claire, I'm my presence in Claire's physical space is it's a challenge for her, and I know she's working to again push
and
her.
she could work to let go of the little things like the ice cubes and only focus on the bigger. And you could, when those comments come, you should just let them go right by. Just don't even give them energy, because it's just her nitpicky mind on stuff like that. And it's not even worth getting upset about. You know what I mean? That's from your part, you could do that. And you can ask her to try to focus on the bigger issues,
Yeah.
so that everything doesn't get too nitpicky,
And a balance also on this, though, is that I noticed that I have this tendency to just want to be agreeable. And again, this is something I notice as, it's something I took from my earlier Buddhist practice and kind of made into an ego thing or a way to make my ego safe. It's like, well, I don't really need that. I'll just let that go. And I think, and again, this is stuff I'm working with Abby, is it's like, it's like on the big stuff, right? On the little stuff, I'm working to let that go, like the ice cubes. In fact, we were able to laugh about that, together, and that was really good. But, and other stuff too. When I'm feeling, and especially before this, before the fear, thing kicked in, I was able to, I think I felt like I was able to do that a lot more, a lot better. Right.
Right. Yeah.
But I'm, what was I going to say? But it's like, there's also this thing, like, I need to show up. And if something does seem problematic, rather than swallow that, I need to voice it, not necessarily,
Yeah.
And then even if that precipitates an argument,
Yeah.
even if that precipitates an argument, then that's okay. And learning to trust that things are okay, even if there's, because that's another thing I've seen about myself is I really fear conflict, conflict that seems personal, like at work. I'm fine going toe to toe with somebody if it's, to get something done or to make something happen. But
Mm-hmm.
I know that, but
Mm-hmm.
in an intimate relationship, yeah. It's in an intimate context. Conflict is very scary to me, and I think it's because my mother was so. She would withdraw when she was upset, and so I kind of had this whole agenda of trying to make sure that she was happy, so that I would feel safe and that she wouldn't withdraw.
Right.
And again, Claire.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of. There's a whole bunch of reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so there's
exactly.
And there's so much to bring to practice, and so or to not just formal practice, but just seeing, okay, this is what's going on internally. This is a pattern.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's anyway. You probably
and to know that deep stuff gets triggered off from childhood when Claire's doing something that to her is probably not a big deal, but it triggers off something scary in you,
Right.
And then that's where the trust comes in, like you were saying, sort of trusting the ground of your relationship that you'll get through it, and that there's basic love there to help you guys get through it, and that.
And that trust
Also can, it sounds like, not to get too personal, but this is the word that's coming up to me. It's like your parents, in some sense, emasculated you. Like they kind of cut you at the knees in a certain sense, like cut you at the knees. So I think that another part of this medicine from the Dharma can be that feeling yourself as chakra samvara, like feeling into standing on the earth, solid, standing on the earth. The good dad, Vajradhara, like the all stable, all awakened masculine, is up there, you know, in union, loving union with the feminine,
Right.
you know. And then you're in that strong, awake, grounded masculine.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think to feel into that in the practice, you know, and really feel it all the way into your legs and feet and the ground, sort of like where you're, you know, imagining you're standing there, would be very powerfully healing as well.
Yeah, and like you were saying, emasculated. The you know, one of the connections I have with Krishnavar is, you know, I mean, he is having sex with Vajrayogini, and you know, they're physically joined, and that's part of the visualization, and there's that sense of strength that comes with that. And what I'm seeing in the practice, Lama Pangden, is that there's that, you know, there's that visualization, the sense of strength, and then there with it is the fear. And I'm not trying to push the fear out of awareness, but I'm just trying to keep coming back to keeping the visualization the central part of, you know, that's where my attention is on this. And I'll tend to wander.
Yeah.
And I notice my mind is tending to wander a lot in these, again, going to worry. And I'm keep bringing it back and bringing the visualization.
And keep bringing the worry to the Yidam, to the awakened being that you're working with, you know, keep bringing the anxiety and fear back to them. Mm-hmm. Like, just explaining to them, oh, see, this is what I'm talking about. Like, I really need the medicine for that, the healing for that, you know, and keep allowing that, you know, and remembering, Kent, that our whole society, let's just talk about America for a moment, sure. American society, and it's much more extensive, but America for sure. We don't have almost any role models of like the awake, good masculine mm-hmm. in our culture.
Yeah.
And so it's like a huge dearth of the positive, true masculine in our culture, you know. And so it's like you're working on this healing and issue for yourself and your own actualization, healing and awakening, but also for all beings, you know, in this sense of stepping into the true masculine, you know.
Yeah.
And of course, the true feminine also,
right.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think the practice, I'm really glad actually the timing, because this is like a really good practice for you to be working with at this time, mm-hmm. to really feel the blessing coming in, helping to relieve the fear, soothe the fear, you know, transform, liberate, and keep allowing it. It's really good you're allowing it, not trying to push it away. Just allow it to be right there with the practice, and keep turning it over to the awakened beings and asking for their help with liberating all of that and deeply, deeply healing it, you know. And, so we should talk about the breathing.
Yeah.
So is the 9 part breath cleansing, is that okay? Sorry, because I kind of, was
I feel I have that down. That feels
good.
That feels clear and good to me. Yeah.
And then have you started bringing the prana a little bit for the bar lung into the lower belly?
Yeah, I've been working with that. You know, I'm doing again, like half an hour of Lujong as part of my practice, like you recommended.
Fantastic.
And I'm taking like what I was doing was taking like 5 minutes off of that to just sit and at the beginning play with the bar lung and try to get that sense of, you know, okay, what does this feel like? I think I've got a pretty good sense now, and so I'm doing it as during parts of the sadhana. I'll do it during the lineage. I'll do it during the lineage prayer at the beginning, where we're reciting everybody's names, and then I'll also sometimes bring it in doing the mantra recitation. I notice again, I'm working with my attention there, and it's hard for me to, I know, well, not hard, but I notice that when I'm doing the barlung at the same time I'm practicing, my attention can be it's not as clear on what I'm saying. My attention seems still divided to some degree. It's not that automatic.
Yeah,
And,
it takes time. That's a lot to concentrate on.
yeah.
Yeah. And probably it sounds really good what you're doing, and also to do it during the very short tumo part.
Right. I'm definitely doing it there.
And just having that sense of prana, of grounding there, and just sort of sealing it with like a lid on top of it, and then breathing on top of it. That sense there of that anchoring should also be helpful with the anxiety, as you become more and more accustomed to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it should help anchor some of those energies. So that sounds good. Don't push it, but just don't try to do it too much. I mean, you're still learning the practice and getting really used to it. So, just take everything slow. We'll be doing this 6 months, so you have time to familiarize, and then gradually, add in the barlung, and, it sounds like you're starting to get a good sense of it,
I think so. Yeah, Claire shared with me something that Lama Drupshu was recommending about barlung, and it's I'm finding like kind of take a smaller sized breath to fill that place, to fill like the origin point, that bag in the abdomen.
Yeah.
A smaller breath to fill that, and then kind of start tightening the back muscles, and then what she said was, and he said was to kind of imagine like almost like a fist kind of coming down the central channel and just pushing, kind of bringing that pushing down. And I noticed I started thinking it that way, but now I think I just have more of a sense of the muscles that are kind of on top there, and what it feels like to hold them. And so that,
it's actually a very gentle sealing, because he's working them at this point into the full breath. He's doing it a little more forceful. We don't really need to be forceful like that at this point. Just have a sense of it. It has a lid on it, and it's sealed, and the gentle muscles are just gently pushing down a little to keep that sealed. And it's a very light kind of a thing,
Okay, good. And I'll lose it from time to time, and then I'll just reset, and I'm getting to the place where it's easier to reset. It's like I don't have to bring, it doesn't feel as complicated, it's like, okay.
Good. And then also make sure you really consciously exhale the whole thing of it every once in a while. And I said that too. It's always that you fill it only 2/3 full or so. You always leave a little extra room in there. Otherwise it's not easy to hold, and it's not comfortable. Yeah.
Okay. Good. Yeah.
So just a gentle, gentle, slight kind of pushing down, just sort of enough, just sort of like your foot's resting across the door or something. It's not a real strong thing.
Okay. But tell me a little, I get the idea it's not strong. I wasn't quite clear on the foot's resting across the door.
Oh, I just meant, say you're just sitting there and there's a door there, and you just want to keep the door shut so the cat doesn't come in. And you just sort of have your leg or your foot
Got
sort
it.
of resting against the door so it doesn't blow open or whatever. Just
Got it.
that kind of, you know, it's there, but it's not like a lot of force is necessary.
Yeah, yeah, okay, got that. Yeah, that seems good. Yeah, that clarifies a lot. Okay.
Good, 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 yeah, good, yeah. So you guys, the biggest thing is now is you guys are just sound like you're giving space, but you need to decide, you know, where you're going to move to and where you're going to live and everything. So that's the biggest issue. Yeah.
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 Yeah. And
well, good luck with that. And yeah, I mean, yeah, it's hard that the Bay Area is so expensive and everything, but you may be able to find a rental in Marin that's not too bad, you know, and then see what you want to do gradually.
Yeah. Yeah. That's kind of the plan. Eventually we may move up north. You know, we were looking at Trinidad or Arcata, which seem to be, you know, they're closer to the coast, and they seem to be like insulated from the worst of what seems to be happening with the climate. But we'll see, you know,
you'll see, because both of you have support networks in the Bay Area too.
I know.
So at least for a little while, that seems important, you know, right now, until you get your relationship, you know, more seasoned and more on solid ground in a certain sense, you know.
Yeah. And
yeah.
And again, it's just
let it settle in more, you know, work out some more details with it, you know, and then because at least you have other people to give you support, you know, when in person, when you can meet in person, you know, and you're not you know, and if you moved, it'd be great if you move somewhere where you know some people too, you know.
Well, you know, see, a thing also is, and again, this is some of my stuff, I tend to be very it's like very reclusive. Not by choice, but it's hard for me to form community and connect. It's like what I notice at work is, you know, when I retired, people, we did this Zoom little party for me with the language arts instructors, and they were so like, and I was getting this even unsolicited from people, getting this input like, you have been such an important presence for me at Chabot, you know, or when you were working with a student, I always left my door open so I could hear what you were doing because, you know, you were so good with that. Or you've just been, you know, just knowing you were there as this, you know, stable, calm voice of reason and presence. And it's not like, I had no clue that there were, I mean, I knew, I had this general sense.
That's so beautiful. Were you able to take it in?
To a large degree, yes, you know, and
yay,
but you know, it's like, but the thing is, even though that's there, it's very hard for me to make social connections and things like that. So I'm just starting this now, actually, kind of making that happen more, is, you know, like actually kind of reaching out and making more social connections. But I guess that this comes up in terms of, in response to what you were saying about community and connection.
Right.
So yeah. Claire
and hopefully within the Shampa, you can, I mean, it's always good in Dharma communities, you know, where can be 2 or 3 people that you connect more, you know, deeply with and stuff too, you know, and hopefully that's there as well. Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah. So.
Okay. Well, we got to close, but it sounds like you know, you're doing really great work, and you can always make an extra appointment with me if it's needed, you know, or whatever, or email me a question or whatever. So, and we'll be meeting again pretty soon, so that'll be good too. So.
Well, thanks, Hamaponga.
Okay.
All right.
You're welcome.
Okay.
And you're in my heart.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye.